After paying for my in-laws' AC repairs during a heat wave, I noticed they'd installed a home theater system too. When I asked about it, they said, "Don't worry, we used your emergency fund." My wife thought it was funny. That's when I checked the bank statements. I'm a 44-year-old dad living in Mesa, Arizona, with my wife Haley and our 2 kids. Been married 17 years. I work as a project manager for a mid-sized construction firm. Decent salary, steady hours. Haley runs a home craft business, sells embroidery, handmade items, that sort of thing. It brings in a little money, but the real income comes from me. We've always had a joint account for major expenses and emergencies. It was never a problem until this past summer. In August, the heat here was hell. We were hitting 115 degrees almost every day for 2 weeks straight. That's when Haley's mom called in a panic. Their AC unit had completely broken down. They live about 25 minutes away from us in a small single-story home. Her dad's retired, her mom too. They live off a modest pension and Social Security, nothing fancy. Haley came to me immediately, saying, "We can't just let them sit in that heat. They'll get sick." I agreed. I pulled $6,300 from our emergency savings and booked a company I'd worked with before to replace the whole system the next day. They were up and running within 24 hours. No problem. I didn't even think twice. Haley said she'd help repay it slowly with her Etsy profits. I figured it'd take a while, but whatever, it was family. A week later, we went over for dinner. Her mom had cooked, and they seemed really relaxed. The air in the house was crisp, comfortable. I was just glad they were okay. But something caught my eye the moment I stepped into the living room. A brand new 75-inch flat screen was mounted on the wall, with those sleek, black Dolby speakers in each corner of the room. There was even a subwoofer under the coffee table. The wires were neatly run, which meant it had been professionally installed. There were 2 new leather recliners facing the TV. I tried to play dumb and asked, "Whoa, this setup looks nice. When did y'all get this?" Her dad laughed and said, "Don't worry, we used your emergency fund." Haley said it was all right. I looked at her, waiting for the joke to be over. She giggled and said, "It's fine, babe. They needed something to keep them entertained. You always stress so much." That was it. I didn't say anything else at the table, but the rest of dinner felt like someone was sitting on my chest. I couldn't enjoy the food, couldn't focus on the conversation. All I could think about was the fact that they just admitted to spending thousands of our emergency savings, money meant for actual emergencies, on luxury. When we got home, I couldn't shake the feeling. Something felt off. So I logged into our joint bank account. The $6,300 withdrawal was there, labeled for the HVAC service. But 3 days later, there was another withdrawal for $1,800, labeled Audio Video Install. I checked the login history. It was done under Haley's name. I sat there for hours, going through months of statements. I found smaller things too. $250 here to her mom's Venmo. $400 cash withdrawals just before Mother's Day and Christmas. $150 labeled gift supplies. Another $600 payment to some local recliner store. She had been slowly bleeding our emergency fund for over a year. That night, I confronted her. I didn't yell. I just asked, "Why didn't you tell me about the extra money you gave your parents?" She shrugged like I'd asked her what time the mail comes. "They've done so much for us. It's not like we're broke." I told her this wasn't about being broke. It was about trust. About taking from the family's future without even telling me. She got defensive. "You always act like I need permission for everything." I was stunned. I didn't even know what to say. I went to sleep on the couch. But I didn't sleep. I sat there scrolling through more transactions, checking dates, piecing it together. She'd made me believe we were budgeting for braces, car repairs, school supplies. But that money was going to her parents for things they didn't need, like leather furniture and surround sound. I looked at our savings balance. Just under $2,000 left. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just a one-time thing. Haley had been lying to me for over a year, sneaking money behind my back, using my hard-earned income to spoil her parents while telling me we couldn't afford a new washing machine. And worse, she thought it was funny. That was the night I realized something in our marriage had broken for good. I wasn't just hurt. I was done being made the fool. After that night on the couch, everything between me and Haley changed. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't slamming doors. I was quiet, focused, watching. She thought it would blow over. that I'd grumble for a few days and let it go. That's probably how it always worked before, me forgiving, her pretending to compromise, and the cycle repeating. But this time I started digging deeper. I pulled credit card statements she hadn't bothered to hide. Turns out she'd opened a personal credit card under her name, something she wasn't supposed to do without telling me, and had racked up another $7,200 in charges, all within the last 18 months. Target, Macy's, Uber Eats, even a few $200 charges to some spa nearby. When I asked her about it, she didn't deny it. She just said, "I need things too. Not everything has to go through you." That line stuck with me. She wasn't just helping her parents. She was spending behind my back and justifying it with resentment. I decided to check in on the Etsy business too. She'd always claimed she was pulling in $600 to $800 a month. But when I looked at the actual linked PayPal records, the numbers were lower, sometimes less than $300, and often nothing. I realized she was lying about income too, making it seem like she was contributing more than she was. That same week, I set up a meeting with a financial planner, alone. I explained the situation. He told me flat out, "You need to separate your finances immediately. Open a new account in your name only. Stop any auto transfers. Protect your income." I did exactly that. When I told Haley, she lost it. "You're treating me like some criminal. Like I'm your child," she yelled. I told her no. Children don't lie about money and secretly fund home theaters for their parents. That triggered her. She packed a bag and went to stay with her parents for a few days. I didn't stop her. While she was gone, our 12-year-old daughter came to me crying. She said Mommy told her that Daddy doesn't care about Nana and Papa and wants them to suffer. My kid was confused and scared. She didn't understand why her mom was twisting things like that. I realized then Haley wasn't just lying to me. She was trying to poison our kids against me too. I spoke to a lawyer the next morning. The lawyer didn't mince words. He said, "Your wife is financially exploiting you. If you want to protect your assets, you need documentation. And you need to act fast." I started gathering everything. Bank statements, PayPal history, screenshots of text messages, including one where Haley told her mom, "Don't worry, I'll just move it from the joint account before he notices." That one nearly made me throw my phone. 3 days later, Haley came back home like nothing happened. Tried to sit next to me on the couch. Acted sweet. I told her I'd filed for legal separation. Her face went blank, then angry. Then she stormed off to the bedroom. Later that night, her dad called me. Told me I was overreacting and that a real man takes care of his wife's family. I hung up, but I saved the voicemail. The next morning, I checked our emergency fund one more time, just to be sure. She tried to drain the last $1,900 that night while I was asleep. But the transfer failed, because I'd already frozen the account. That's when I knew this wasn't just a mistake. It was theft, a betrayal deep enough to wreck a marriage. And I wasn't about to let her walk away with everything. About 2 weeks after I filed for separation, I got served. Haley lawyered up and hit me with a petition demanding temporary spousal support, partial custody of the kids, and this part floored me, compensation for emotional distress due to my controlling financial behavior. Her lawyer's filing painted me like some tyrant. Said I withheld funds from her, created a financially abusive environment, and restricted her independence. I sat there reading every lie in that document with my jaw clenched. The kicker? She wanted half of everything, including what was left in my retirement accounts, even though I'd built them up for over 20 years. I sent everything to my attorney, who just said, "She's trying to flip the script. This is standard when someone gets caught, deflect and attack." But it got worse. A week later, I was called into a Zoom meeting with the school counselor. Haley had made a report claiming our daughter said I was scaring her and punished Mommy for helping Grandma. It was a strategic move. She was trying to lay groundwork for full custody. Thankfully, our daughter told the counselor the truth. She said, "Mommy says stuff to me that makes me scared of Daddy, but Daddy never yells or hits. He just works a lot and doesn't smile anymore." That saved me. But it shook me to my core. Now the kids were collateral. I started digging even deeper. I had a hunch. I checked our internet logs and Haley's tablet, still connected to our Wi-Fi, and discovered emails between her and her younger brother, Alan. Alan's a bartender in Flagstaff. Always broke. Always between jobs. Turns out, Haley had been sending him money too. Not much, maybe $50 here, $100 there. but one thread caught my attention. A conversation about moving the rest to you before he locks it down. I called my bank and confirmed Haley had attempted multiple transfers from a separate joint credit union account I'd forgotten about. I froze that one too. Then came the final twist. I pulled a credit report on both of us, just to see if anything else was lurking. Haley had opened a second secret credit card, in my name. $3,900 balance. Mostly restaurant charges, online shopping, a couple of hotel stays in Phoenix I couldn't explain. I called the hotel directly, asked about the guest names. One of the charges had a guest listed as Haley and Alan, her brother. I sat there for 20 full minutes staring at that screen. Either they lied and posed as a couple to get some couple's weekend rate, or something darker was going on. I didn't want to believe it, but the pieces were adding up in a way I couldn't ignore. When I confronted her with the hotel bill, she didn't even try to explain. She just said, "You don't get to question my relationships anymore. We're not even together." I replied, "You're right. But a court will." I handed everything over to my attorney. The theft, the manipulation, the lies, the potential fraud. I wasn't just going to fight back. I was going to make sure every lie she told cost her something real. After I handed over the hotel records and credit report to my attorney, things started moving quickly. We filed an emergency motion with the court to freeze all shared financial assets. My lawyer added a fraud claim tied to the unauthorized credit card in my name, plus the forged transactions from the old credit union account. He told me, "We're no longer in divorce territory. This is civil theft." We also filed a temporary restraining order, not physical, but financial. It barred Haley from accessing or moving any more funds under my name or from any account that had my SSN attached. That same week, my payroll was redirected into a new private checking account. 2 days later, I got a frantic call from Haley. She was at the grocery store trying to use her debit card. It got declined. I didn't answer. She followed up with a text that said, "You're humiliating me. You're making me look crazy." I stared at that message. She'd lied, stolen, manipulated our kids. And now she was worried about how she looked. The next hit came when her parents got dragged into it. Turns out the sound system, TV, and leather recliners, they were bought on one of the fraudulent cards. Under my name. I had proof. My lawyer sent a cease and desist to her parents, demanding they either return the goods or agree to a repayment plan, or be named in a civil claim. They responded with a long, self-righteous email blaming me for being petty and ungrateful. Her dad actually wrote, "If you'd been more generous, Haley wouldn't have needed to go behind your back." They thought I was just going to fold. But it got darker. One night, around 9:45 p.m., I caught movement on the security camera outside. Haley had pulled into the driveway and was standing in front of the garage. She just stood there, holding something. I turned on the speaker and said, "You need to leave." She didn't move. She just stared at the camera and whispered, "I want to talk." I didn't open the door. I called the cops, told them my soon-to-be ex-wife, who had stolen from me and possibly committed credit fraud, was on my property after being legally ordered to stay away unless scheduled through attorneys. The officer talked to her for a few minutes and asked her to leave. She did, but slowly, like she wanted to make sure I saw her crying. The next day, her attorney sent mine a letter accusing me of being intimidating and weaponizing the legal system. My lawyer just laughed. Meanwhile, I kept trying to hold it together for the kids. I got them into counseling. I explained the separation in careful, age-appropriate terms. I didn't blame their mom directly, but kids aren't dumb. They saw how tense things had gotten, how I stayed calm while their mom stormed in and out like a tornado. Then the court date arrived for our first hearing. Haley walked in with her parents and that smug little brother in tow. She wore all black like she was at a funeral. She didn't know what was coming. I had documents, screenshots, financial logs, surveillance video, a full paper trail. She thought she could twist this whole thing into a story about emotional abuse. But I was about to give the court the truth. That court hearing changed everything. I sat across from Haley, her arms crossed, her face locked in a smug half-smile like she still believed this would all blow over. Like the judge would scold us both and tell us to play nice and split things evenly. She was wrong. My lawyer laid out everything. Slowly, deliberately, like building a case brick by brick. He showed bank statements highlighting $11,000 transferred from our joint savings to her parents and her brother. He pulled up screenshots of the forged credit card application under my name, dated and IP tracked to her device. He played the voicemail from her father, calling me weak for not funding their lifestyle. Then he submitted the email where she told her mom, "Don't worry, I'll move it before he notices." The judge asked her to respond. She said I had emotionally neglected her, controlled her spending, and made her feel like a guest in her own life. The judge looked at her and said, "You committed financial fraud, used your husband's identity to obtain credit, misused joint funds, and then attempted to manipulate your children into believing he was abusive. This is not a divorce case. This is a case of exploitation." Haley froze. For the first time in months, she had nothing to say. The judge ruled immediately. She was barred from touching any joint assets moving forward. Full control of all financial accounts was returned to me. The judge ordered a forensic accountant to determine how much she'd stolen, not just transferred, but spent on non-necessities. She was held civilly liable. She owed me over $27,000. I got primary custody of the kids. She was granted supervised visitation twice a month, pending review. The judge noted psychological manipulation and coaching of minor children. That nearly made me cry, not because I was happy, but because someone finally saw it for what it was. Then came the final blow. Because the credit card fraud involved identity theft, I had the right to press criminal charges. I told the judge I wasn't looking for jail time. I wasn't out for blood. I just wanted repayment and protection. But the DA decided to file anyway. She's now facing 2 felony counts, fraudulent credit use and identity theft over $1,000. The trial hasn't started yet, but she's looking at probation at best, maybe even jail time if her brother testifies. And trust me, he will. He's already trying to cut a deal. Her parents had to sell the home theater system. I didn't even have to sue. The threat of being named in the civil claim scared them enough. I got $4,500 back from that sale alone. Her dad called me again, begged me not to ruin Haley's life. I told him, "You should have raised a better daughter." Today, my kids live with me full-time. I moved into a smaller, quieter house near Tempe. I keep things simple now. I take them to school. We eat dinner at the table. We talk. We're healing. Haley? Last I heard, she's couch surfing. Her Etsy shop's shut down. Her credit score is wrecked. Her parents, once so smug, are now buried in medical debt after losing the little money they had trying to help her stay afloat. And I sleep just fine. Because when someone steals from you, lies to your face, and laughs while doing it, sometimes the most powerful revenge is not destroying them. It's letting the truth do it for you.